This meeting, yet again, is being live streamed on the YouTubes, and we're getting a link as soon as the old YouTubers fires up here. Yay, YouTube! All right, we are live with Nick and Gotham for an all new TA report. Now that I've got that twatted out, gentlemen, I've already come up with a theme for today's pod here. Are you ready? Are you with me? Are you with me?
Uh-oh. I don't like where this is going.
I was gonna just, where is this going?
All you bulls chasing are going to lose it all yet again. Sorry, GP. I just had to come in hot. There's just too much exuberance after what a tremendous week it was this past week. Oh my God! Like what the Qs. Wow, up 8.8%, still lower than GP said was going to be 10% like 3 weeks ago, but I digress. Just wow, what an incredible week.
I got a song for you, Bags. I got a song for you.
They got snuffed out at the 20 and still has a ways to go before it hits a resistance line. You know, I was looking at the ES and the S&P, and like 4100 is bang on. We've talked about 4100 in the past. And would it surprise me if we went up and kissed 4,100 this week? No. We haven't had any follow through, and that's where I'm staying. That's where I've been. I'm not getting excited over this big up week and let everybody chase into this shit. It's going to be crushing. It's going to be soul crushing yet again. There you go. I'm done. Have a good night.
I mean, you know, everyone's going to be selling into that trend line too. Just, I mean, it's been,
and they were up here too.
2022.
Remember,
yeah,
I sold Microsoft and Apple and a whole host of shit up here.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's my song for me there, GP?
I was playing it. Did you hear it?
No, I didn't.
Let me know if you hear this.
It's the sound of silence. Hello, darkness, my old friend. We're going to zero again.
I mean, the headlines are getting real bad.
Can you hear that or no?
No, nobody can hear shit.
What the? I don't know why it's not playing, but it's my song. I Will Survive.
Oh, yeah, no, we will survive.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
Fuck your pessimism and
no,
all this
you
stuff.
know, I think the market always resolves higher.
Fails.
The market always resolves higher.
There will be a trend line failure, and one day you will be wrong. And it could be this time.
It could be. It absolutely could be. And I welcome it if it is. But until it's not. So
talk shit all you want, but one day you'll be wrong.
We have been wrong a lot in 2022, and I'll admit that. So
my time frames are off.
Well, I mean, again, long term, like it's all going to the moon forever, right? So I don't have any doubt.
That's not a way to look at it either. Half these companies are not going to survive, right? Like the regime change is there, so like. The markets will go higher, indices, but not all stocks will survive. Pretty sure Redfin's going to go out of business.
Yeah, you're right.
Get bought out.
But from the beginning of time, the S&P has gone higher, right? Like, and that's
they're designed. They'll just swap out the companies that are performing.
Exactly. I don't think Redfin's in the S&P, is it?
I don't even think it should be a stock, but that's a different conversation.
Half the shit Kathy owns isn't in the S&P.
Yeah, and look, I saw a lot of this coming back in early 2021. I did not think it'd be as long as it's been, right? I thought it was going to be a quicker kind of, it's been drudging. It's been life soul crushing, as you said. But I think Bags, you and I talked about this, or we talked about it on our Discord. It's like, how was 2020? This was early 2021. How was 2020 not peak growth for all the big cap techs, right?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah,
For sure.
So like, what were you buying at that point? Unless there's another pandemic coming that we don't know about, right? Like what's going to accelerate their growth? And they're already massive companies, right? So, like I trimmed out Netflix, I trimmed out Amazon, I trimmed out a bunch of stuff. I even waited a really long time to buy in, and I still got smoked. So it hasn't been fun for sure, but I'm not worried in the companies that I am buying. Right, I'm not going out and buying DraftKings, and things that I just don't see a path forward, because free money is gone, right? It's going to be gone for quite some time. Even if the economy turns downwards and we get a recession, it's not free money. They're not going to just all of a sudden say, here's all the free money in the world, yet inflation's still 7.7%, right? Like, it's not going to happen. They've already told us that metric needs to be 2%, which most likely they'll adjust up to like 4% in the near future. But because, they're always moving the goalposts. But as of now, the mandate's 2%. So as long as it's 2%, inflation doesn't come down in a month or two. And if it does come down that rapidly, it's a bigger systemic risk. So free money, I think, is done. So what you're seeing real time is, in my opinion, a rotation out of assets, right? Like
Mr. Bear subscribed to our YouTube, by the way. Hi, Mr. Bear. Thanks for subscribing. That's not a joke. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I think, like, when we talk about the markets, I think obviously the markets are designed to over time gradually go up, right? And you'll have bits and pieces that will underperform for a while and then overperform. As someone told me when I first started, there's only so much money in the markets that can move stocks. So there's a constant rotation, right? Between sectors, between industries and stuff like that. So we're in that kind of cycle where money still needs to be invested. Maybe it's not tech, maybe it is energy, maybe it is something that we don't foresee coming. I don't know what that sector is right now. I honestly don't think it's energy, but
drugs.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nick, you're still on the XBI and the Labu, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you there for like the intermediate. I just don't know long term, right? I'm talking about secular 5 to 10 year trends.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Right. So I agree. XBI looks fantastic. It's potentially breaking out of a 2-year downtrend.
Yeah.
You can argue that it's a bear flag, but to me, this just looks bullish, right? Like, after looking at thousands and thousands of charts, this looks like it's ready to party.
Okay, so this is non-conspiracy theory aside, right?
I love
whether people want to blame COVID or blame the vaccine. I'll take a completely different angle. The stress alone, like, we all know what stress does to the human body, and the stress, like, humanity was put through a stress test in the midst of basically 2020 and moving forward. And I think
we failed miserably.
Yeah, and that amount of stress, the lasting consequences of that, I think, are going to continually show up in places I don't think somebody might know or have an idea. I'm not I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying that I think the effects are going to continue to show up, and I feel like it. You're right. I don't know if it's like a 5-10 year type leading sector, but it's one that I definitely want to keep my focus on. I also kind of agree that like, or I don't remember, I think it was Anchors, we were kind of chirping for a minute, and like, let's just hypothetically say that this is kind of a period where the crypto markets do really decouple from the equity markets. We're going to be moving back into a period where like the IWM and biotech is going to be the areas that are going to tell us whether it's like risk on or risk off. Whereas like prior, or for a long while, it seemed to be that crypto was kind of like, they were telling, if crypto was ripping, I guess, at that point, I guess everything was kind of ripping. But.
I love taking devil's advocate, and
sure.
and I will.
I love it when you do.
What if crypto's bottoming before the market is?
I don't think it is.
I'm not saying it is or it's not. I'm saying what if, right? That's part of being
for sure.
an advocate, right? So
yeah.
The drawdowns in crypto have been massive, and quite frankly, with all the macro that's happening in crypto, with obviously everyone knows about FTX, crypto.com stopped some transfers and withdrawals today or last night. There could be another leg down from here, right? And hypothetically, right, if crypto still has maybe another leg down, and it could be leading the market, what does that say? Like, how much further could the market go? I know we've all put price tags lower on what we think could potentially have an oh shit scenario in the market, but what if crypto is still leading?
If that's the case, then I think we see like Apple at 100. I think we see Google like probably closer in the like, let's just say 60, 70 range. Probably Tesla back at probably right around that 100 to 110.
So like let's just ballpark that. That's like another 20% downside.
Right. So if that's what I would say to your argument. If crypto's leading,
and I'm not saying it is. I want to preface that. I'm not saying it is. I'm just playing devil's advocate of if you think that IWM could be the leader, then we could make the argument.
I'm not saying I think the IWM is going to be a leader. I think it's going to tell us when it's risk on versus risk off.
Right. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, and to me, crypto is having its negative oil moment.
You think so?
Yes.
So in terms of, could we say that, let's just say Bitcoin and Ethereum are basically the Google and Amazon of the crypto world, right?
Yeah.
And like in the midst of like, the tech crash, Google and Amazon are definitely, and Apple are definitely like, the monster leaders that emerged, that survived that, right?
Only Apple has survived. Everything else got destroyed, dude. Like Google got destroyed, Amazon got destroyed, Netflix, obviously, Microsoft is down. Apple is sitting there and be like, I'm going to hold 138. Like, it doesn't matter because
I mean, I'm saying coming out of 2000.
Oh, coming out of 2000.
Yeah, I'm saying coming, like, let's just hypothetical, or let's just compare.
Yeah, you're just trying to get a comparison. If one thing is this, then the other thing is that kind of deal.
Right. So out of the tech crash of 2000, it was like, let's just say Google, Amazon, Apple were like the monsters that emerged from that post 2000. So let's say that the crypto is kind of in a similar crash type environment. Bitcoin and Ethereum are those two that no matter how bad they do get crushed, they will be the ones that like emerge the monsters from this.
So I'll take the other side of that, Nick.
Okay.
In 2000, Google wasn't even public, right? So
yeah.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that became the leader, and it wasn't even on the radar post.com crisis. So we say Bitcoin and Ethereum because that's what we know as of now. We don't know what that will be in 5 years, right?
Sure.
And so I think Google IPO'd in 2004, believe me, if I'm correct. So it was 4 years post. They were around in early 2000, but it was 4 years after the dot-com crisis. Google emerged as one of the clear winners. It is, I think, one of the handful of IPOs that I've looked at over the years that has never, ever gone back to touch the IPO lows, day lows, right?
Sure.
There's another handful of other ones, but Google's just been sheer strength and leadership over the last 15, 17 years. And they weren't even in a conversation during the dot-com crisis. They don't have this ugly parabolic chart to look back to reference. They're all post.com. So we could get something called the Tres Amigos token coin that comes out in 2025, and that could be the winner, right?
Yeah. I think what Nick's saying, and I think there's let me translate. I think there's a bit of both of what you're saying is true. You know, 2000, Microsoft, Cisco, Exxon, GE, and Intel were the 5 largest stocks in the S&P 500. I'm not saying that Nick is saying that Bitcoin is one of these leading into 2000, but he's more of saying these are the 2 largest by far of all the other tokens, and we should expect them to hopefully rebound just out of their strength and what everybody knows of them. And what you're saying, GP, which I agree with, is we may not know what the number one coin is going to be. Like Bitcoin has this huge lead as far as the market size and market cap, but that doesn't mean that, you know, it's infallible, right? It can be taken down. So I think both of what you're saying, there's probably some truth to it. I think. So
I could say that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the Cisco and Intel of 2000, right? We can have the other side of that conversation because Cisco was inherently the leader, and it has done nothing in 22 years, right? Since it's just happy being where
it could, or it could continue to be Microsoft.
Yeah, but Microsoft also did nothing for 14 years post-dot-com crisis, right? So it wasn't until 2014 when Amazon stepped into cloud and Microsoft piggybacked off of Amazon's success that Microsoft and Bomber stepping down. That was all.
I think we're getting too tied into the comparison of them versus now. I think
probably because that's what I do. But what I'm trying to say,
I think what we're trying to say is these are the 2 largest tokens right now. These are the 2 largest cryptos in the world. They could absolutely continue or outpace everything, or there could be something new that comes along and displaces them. While something may come along and displace them, they do have their work cut out for them to do so.
Yes, agreed. And if you pull up the Ethereum chart, I shared it earlier this afternoon. I like what Ethereum's doing here. I know it's gotten crushed off the FTX stuff, but I would have expected liquidation type stuff in these charts off the FTX news, right? And to me, it hasn't liquidated, right? If this is the death of crypto,
just look at this range since April of 2021, basically. Like this is Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So a relative chart here. At some point, it's got to break out or break down, right? It's stayed in this box.
Yeah, and I'm personally in the camp that we're in the sentiment cycle of where we went negative oil, right? Like we're close to that. We may get one more blip down.
Would that be like Bitcoin 10K, you think?
I'm paying more attention to Ethereum than I am Bitcoin because Bitcoin's a bit illiquid to me versus Ethereum.
So like ETH, like what, 350?
No, I actually think it's going to hold this level, right? We're not making lower lows. We're not putting in a higher volumes like sell out here. So to me, this is like the final, like if FTX doesn't break crypto, not sure what else will. Do you know what I mean?
Binance breaking crypto.
Yeah, maybe you need all of them to go bankrupt to break crypto, but like negative oil didn't break oil. It just annoyed a lot of people, right? Like, it turned out to be one of the best buying opportunities in what, 100 years of oil,
forever, ever.
Yeah.
Right? So
I mean, anybody with an empty swimming pool in the winter could have filled up and just made bank, right? Like, I mean, it was just that's what oil was.
Or just bought USO, right? USO started.
And I just to be clear, I don't think Binance is going to break crypto, but they certainly could. They are by far the biggest exchange, and if something that happened like with FTX happened to Binance, that would be very ugly.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm personally in the camp that this is one of those final, like, where I see a lot of told you so's all over Twitter. Told you crypto was worthless.
Well, that goes both ways, though, right? Like,
yeah, no, I know, but the sentiment of everyone who's been like quiet has been coming out. See, this is what unregulated markets do, and this is blah blah blah. You would have been better investing in Goldman Sachs, which, you know, they're saints, right? Because they don't do anything wrong. So like, there's a lot of that stuff too, but I just don't see the breakdown here. I would have expected a bigger breakdown, and maybe we get it a couple weeks later with Binance going bankrupt as well, and then you know, 21 million or 18 million Bitcoins just disappearing from the face of the planet. But I like the conversation here. I actually started buying
we've talked crypto in a very long time.
What's that?
This is the most we've talked crypto in a very long time. Normally, I get to mention it just in passing.
To me, I think this was critical, right? Like, I was just looking at it over the time, and I just remember very, very similar kind of conversations around when oil was negative, right? It was so hated. It was never going to recover, and the jokes about the swimming pools and all that other stuff were wild back then, right? And crypto seems to be in that moment. Like I said, I could be wrong. I did start buying Ethereum this weekend. I will be adding to my positions.
The dude on CNBC was quoted as saying the FTX bankruptcy shows the company had 134 affiliates spread across the globe and may have liabilities of up to 50 billion. To put that in comparison, when Enron went under, they had liabilities of about 23 billion.
Yeah, but Enron, we also didn't have $1 trillion companies back then, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
So like, comparing those numbers to Enron, I feel like is clickbait, right? That's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it on CNBC, so of course.
Exactly.
But anyone making those comparisons, like, and actually like believing them, is like, I understand Enron was bad, right? But Enron was physically actually doing stuff, right? They were a company that was doing stuff. These are just tokens. I don't think they physically produce anything as of yet, right? Well, I know I'll hear hate on that.
It's not just the cryptos or tokens, right? It was what FTX and Alameda was doing with people's money that was buying their tokens, right? And being the exchange, right? They were being dealer brokers, and basically they were using people's money that, you know, they weren't keeping on reserve. And while I'm sure there's going to be a lot of lawsuits and there's going to be a lot of legal action, I mean, this is the case for regulation.
Oh yeah, and regulation stabilizes, and usually that's time to start buying, right? Because then things start to behave better. Right, when regulation
brings up a great question, though. Why buy Bitcoin when you can buy Amazon down 50%?
Yeah, I don't disagree. But what's Amazon's growth strategy? How do they grow past 500 billion? Like, what are they? Unless they introduce,
they create their own exchange and their own token.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I can't argue that. I'm not saying buy Ethereum, don't buy Amazon, but I guess what I'm saying is that I think it's for me, it was okay to start trading back into some of the bigger dog cryptos. I'm not buying any tokens as of now, but Ethereum seemed like a good point for me to start adding, and I'll be slowly adding over the next few weeks.
Let's get back on task. While I appreciate the crypto talk a lot, I just got to get back to it's earnings week again. This time with some retailers. This time with NVIDIA. This time with Cisco. This time with Palo Alto Networks. Do we really think, after coming in a hot week like we did, that these retailers are going to show some positive, anything? Do we think NVIDIA is just going to be jumping out of the moon? We've had such great strength in the semis the past couple of weeks. Do we think this is really going to keep going? Like, seriously, the retailers are going to shit the bed, right? Right? No?
I don't know, man. You're the one who's got the opinion.
I'm saying they are. I'm playing the Imperial March over here, and I'm saying don't believe this run up that we had the last week.
Yeah, it's fine if you don't want to believe, but at some point you got to start putting money to work, right? And that's your call on what you find as a risk management strategy and what you find to be positive in terms of I know the theme is the Fed, right? And the Fed is doing what they're doing, and they're on the verge of breaking markets.
I think the Fed story is more or less. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Fed story might be overplayed at this point. Like I don't think anybody can be surprised at any more interest rate hikes, and I don't think there's anything that they can do about inflation.
Yeah, inflation's just going to have its cycle. It's time. Yeah. Time is what resolves inflation, and supply. And why is it time? Because supply side that got severely destroyed during COVID takes time to ramp up, right? Like let's take example Hertz. Hertz sold their entire fleet to make sure they survive. It takes time to rebuild that. It doesn't happen in 3 months, right? It doesn't happen in 6. It doesn't happen in 12. Like if you try to go rent a car these days, they're so crappy. They're stained. They're unmaintained, and so like this stuff takes time. And they're doing a great job of destroying demand, right? The Fed, which ultimately, if it's perceived longer than most expect, then they do some serious damage. But to me is like, what if they do accomplish the miracle of a soft landing with unemployment still doing pretty decent, right?
I mean,
like, where's your narrative then, right? Because if people can continue paying the higher amounts, then, and like it's an interesting time because people have been kind of stuck at home for 2.5 years, and they're gonna do things. And if they're gainfully employed, and they're making good money, then won't they just swap things, right? Like they'll spend a little bit more on travel and not buy the extra pair of jeans or whatever.
So Short Seller at Charts for Charity shared an interesting tweet from Warren Pies on Twitter, and his take I thought was really poignant. CPI peak is in. The question is whether the data cools quicker than the earnings deteriorate. Rally should find the top edge of the range of today's data. So basically, right, if earnings stays okay or is good and inflation continues to drop, then we're going higher. If earnings is not so great or worse and inflation stays up, then we're going lower, obviously, right? That's pretty sensible take. Don't disagree with that at all. And that's the reason why I bring up these retailers this week, right? Because not only are they going to look backwards, but most of them should be giving us some guidance on what they think their holiday season is going to look like. And, you got Walmart, you got Home Depot, you got Lowe's, you got Target, you got TJ Maxx, you got Macy's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this just could be one clusterfuck of a week.
Walmart's been like wedging higher. Target,
but we don't know, right? And that's the point why I come back to what I've been saying for weeks now, if not months, is like I'll believe it when I see it. And if I miss the bottom by whatever percentage that is, whatever. It is what it is. But until we actually see that we're able to go higher, it's hard for me to be like, God, that was a great week. I'm all in.
Well, what would you say if we start to break, like both in terms of like the SPY and the Qs? Like, what if we start to break out of this channel? What say you then? Would you start to get involved again, or what are like?
Well, I mean, I think we've got to blast through this 4100, and then you gotta come back and retest it at some point, and then it's either confirmed as support or it was a false breakout, right? So until resistance changes, it is resistance, and you can go above it, but then you can get slapped down pretty hard, and if it's fugazi, it breaks down pretty fast, as we've seen at least 3 other times just this year. So at some point you're going to knock and the door's going to open, but I don't know that it's this time. There's a lot.
I'd say 4,300. I mean, I would definitely be a seller into 41. But I think that 43-ish is the pivot to watch. I think if that gets taken out, that would
make a lot of sense.
Does that line up with the Jackson Hole lows? Because that's the area I'm watching here, right? Because to me, that's when I think people finally, after a year of fighting the Fed, finally said, "Oh shit, these guys are for real." Right? Like,
yeah,
right. And
right? Fuck yeah, yeah.
Al said I'm getting gang raped.
Right. So that was, and Jay Powell came in hard that day, right? So to me, that's the pivot area. I don't know what it's 40.60 is that low, I think, on the XPX. And that's kind of what I'm watching here, because that was that kind of catalytic moment in the markets to say, oh shit, we're going lower. And the Fed is going to make sure that every time we go higher, they're going to jump in and say, we're screwed, right? So that's the level I'm watching personally. It's similar to the mid-August, like the capitulation low from January that we rejected. The moment where everyone kind of bought in thinking that was the bottom and then got smoked. So when we got back to that level, I was expecting selling, did not expect the craziness that we got after that. But it wasn't crazy until the Jackson Hole conversation, right? Like it went from, 4,200 that day straight to 40.50, so lost 150 points, and then just pretty much straight down after that. So that's the level I'm watching on all these indices. I believe the Dow Jones has already retaken that, if I'm correct.
Yeah. And I pointed that out. I did a little chart storm on Friday. The Dow, I mean, again, this looks different than what we've seen in the past, right? Like this looks different. And that makes me want to believe. But we'll see.
And then if you also pull up the IWM, there's a pretty big wick on the IWM, and that's exactly where it wicked from, the Jackson Hole lows, right? The daily chart, if you're looking at it, right? That's a pretty decent wick on Friday, and literally it was the lows of the IWM was 188.66, and what do we tag? 188.84. So incremental kind of over and then destroyed, right? Not destroyed, but sold. So that's kind of the level, and so it's like mixed signals, right? The Dow Jones has already crushed it. IWM got rejected, and the S&P and the Qs have not even tested it yet. So that to me is the like levels I'm watching, because I understand round numbers and 4,100, 4,300, but I also like to see pivot, like human psych pivots, right? Like, and that day, that Jackson Hole sell-off felt really, really different.
Yeah.
So that's the level I'm watching here. And if we take that out this week or in the next couple of weeks, I think we have a lot more upside. And there's going to be no V. There's no free money. It's going to be chop. Okay. It's going to be what Tuesday was. Tuesday was like, oh my God, everything is going to die, and then we have a 7% up day.
Yep. And that's another thing that we've seen during 2022, right? Is these massive moves in both directions. In a week, it's easy to go from a few percent down to all of a sudden making that up in the next session or two.
That's a news-driven market,
right?
But it's also technical, right, Nick? It's so towards the end of cycles and towards the bottom of cycles, volatility increases a lot.
Yeah.
Right. It's so like if we pull up the Dixie, right, or the USD JPY, you can see the volatility start to increase. Really, like it was some wild moves for a currency. It doesn't look that great on a chart, but for currency, those are big moves.
Yeah.
And so when you like USD JPY is the one I'm talking about. Right, like if you go to like the hourly, you had some wild moves. And
we talked about this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and so to me that it was happening in real time, right? And so when you have the volatility increase on a move that's been parabolic, it's usually signaling to me that that's the end of that move. Whether it's a much larger move, usually is, whether it's a much larger move to the downside or it's just consolidation sideways while it catches up, is always to be seen. But it's the same thing when you start to see these big volatile movements. Like for example, Amazon was down 11 or 12 straight days, right? And in one day it covered the 6 days or 7 days, yep. Right? So like it's telling you that it's a shift that's going on. There's a big volatility component here that's increasing, that there's people who are selling out because they don't believe in the Amazon story, but there's also buyers stepping in, right? So there's this epic battle that's going on, and that's what you're kind of seeing towards the end of cycles and the beginning of cycles. So that's just me, right? Usually you don't see volatility go zero, right? It's usually to me, but I don't know, Nick, what do you think?
No, I would agree in terms of like seeing that volatility at the beginning and ends of moves. I don't follow the current like currency as much. I mean, I do follow the dollar, but I was kind of just putzing with this IWM chart a little bit. And
you want to show it?
I mean, no, I don't need to. I was just thinking like the 2022 in me has got me thinking like, oh man, this looks like almost a Head and Shoulders. Shit, you know. So I'm like, I don't know. I think we see more upside from here, but
you mean this right here?
But Nick,
yeah.
but Nick, yeah. Head and Shoulders are topping patterns.
Yes.
Right.
So hopefully,
so having a bearish pattern that's already a bearish pattern is not a bearish pattern.
That's 2022. Here we go.
So like, I hear you. Yeah, it could be a Head and Shoulders, but so just to step back for a second, you asked about retailers, right? So To me, the king of retailers is Costco. So about a month ago, they reported earnings, and everyone was talking about the head and shoulders here, right?
Yeah.
On the weekly,
Yeah.
it's very, very clear. But after listening to that earnings and listening to the CEO and how they were positioned, I mentioned it on Stock Twist that you should take an hour out of your day and listen to this earnings call, because to me, they seemed they weren't sure about inflation, but they seemed very confident about their inventory supply side conversation, and that they were poised to outperform. Maybe Walmart and Target are the losers in that conversation, but Costco, which is the leading retailer to me,
well, I mean, I think that gets to the point of management teams, right? Costco is definitely one of the best run companies in the world, much less retail, right? And I would have said the same maybe for Target. They've made right moves, but their inventory problems were an issue, same as Walmart. So I'm just, when you have Target and Walmart reporting in the same week, which they always do, and you're coming off a week like we did last week, right? Like, I mean, let's just pull up old Target here.
It looks great.
Yeah, it looks great, right? So 2022, let's put our 2022 glasses back on. What is most likely to happen here? Shit the bed or go higher?
Go higher.
All right. That's not what 2022 has shown us yet.
On a weekly, that more looks like it's wedging, and it's just like it's waiting for another leg down. To me,
it looks like it's a bear flag to me.
Yeah, especially if you go out to the weekly, like pull up the dollar store though, DLTR. I mean, DLTR along with Costco, I would agree. I like both a lot.
And why are people going to Dollar Tree more right now?
I mean, the dollar's been strong until it rolled over. But,
and then we also look at the other retailer that I think is a true indication of our economies. Pull up Home Depot. Right? Like,
there you go, poking its head up there.
Right. So to me, maybe Target and Walmart don't do great, but I think this is the conversation from earlier is, will every stock do great and survive this downturn? No. And maybe it's only a handful of ones that do.
So you got Walmart and Home Depot announcing before market opens on Tuesday, and then you get the follow-up on Wednesday with Target and Lowe's.
And then you also see
this
McDonald's.
Will be a big week then.
McDonald's is another retailer, and that shit is just crushing shorts, right? Like it is. Look at the McDonald's chart. Like, pull that up. That is a nuts chart.
I don't think McDonald's reports this week though.
Not reports, but it's retail sentiment, right?
Yeah.
This is what people are spending money on.
My same thing of why people are shopping at the dollar store. Why are people?
That's got to be bullish for the IBB though.
Dude, McDonald's is not cheap food, but yeah, I get it.
Well, I mean, it's cheaper than Chipotle, right?
Yes, but nothing as cheap as making food at home, right? So
no, absolutely. And I'm not arguing that point, but some people are going to eat out, right? Regardless whether they are able to fix food at home or whatever. People are still going to shop retail regardless of what's going on. So you go to those less expensive options.
And to me, Target and Walmart do look good. My only conversation is there's a lack of accumulation for me to say that this is like, it's had two big distribution bars for Target and no accumulation bars. And maybe the earnings is what causes one of the accumulation bars.
Well, you've hated Target for the longest.
Hey man,
you should have been short. You should have been short on Target, like over here in the two.
I was.
Yeah, but still
I was.
I mean, anyway,
I was, but I got shaken out on that push up, right? So, then that's been 2022 for me, is because I saw that short coming and it still got smoked on the puts. But to me, there's still a lack of accumulation. So it could be that their inventory problem is still a problem.
Well, I mean, it's the biggest volume bar in months, basically.
Yeah, but look at the daily, right? If you swap to the daily, I don't know why that shows as green for you, but it shows red for me.
What, the bar?
Yeah, because it's a hollow candle. Okay.
Because I've got my TKP Trader TRM candle colors on.
Okay. Yeah, but that's a big gap down and got bought up. So you can say that's an accumulation bar then.
We have really just been all over the map, and it's taken all of 50 minutes so far. And the one area that we haven't discussed, other than me saying NVIDIA reports, are the semis. So looking at these motherfuckers, like, it has just been an incredible, 4 weeks for the semis, for by all accounts. I can't put my finger on it. I'm scratching my head. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm long, right? But what the fuck?
I mean,
it tagged the 61.8 retracement from the COVID lows. From I think the 2018 lows, the original taper tantrum, and then just rocketed up. Like, it's just not even. Yeah, it's interesting. It reclaimed the 10. I think it also reclaimed the 21 week. Yep.
Yeah.
And almost the 50, I believe.
Almost the 50.
Yep.
Homebody says, aside from tickers, I'm noting empty shelves and lack of choice at grocery stores, aka Walmart. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that too, Homebody.
Yep. Same here in Jersey.
I was in our local grocery store just yesterday morning with baby bags number 1. No, sorry, with baby bags number 2. And it kind of, I mean, I'm not saying it felt COVID-y, right? But there was definitely a lack of shit on the shelves.
Yeah, I was in South Carolina for a wedding last week or 2 weeks ago, and same thing, walked into a bunch of grocery stores and there was a lot of stuff missing.
Dude, so my valet company,
yes,
I have had an absolute nightmare hiring. Let's say probably the last, I don't know, let's just say 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years. Not that long, probably like 3 to 4, even before COVID, but especially since COVID. Within the last 2 months, I have been getting hounded with applications from college kids, and every single one of them is telling me the job, like, the options are not out there. These are kids that are not graduating, that are sophomore, junior, and seniors that are either getting ready to graduate or just planning, and like that the options out there are not what they were.
Yeah, which is understandable, right? Which is good for you.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
it's understandable as well. Like, from just overall, you have this 40-year monetary policy that's turning its head on a dime by the Fed. So people are just gonna slow down the way they do things until they can assess, right? Like, I can see, like, I still don't understand why companies are doing buybacks versus dividends, right? Free money is gone, so you should be considering dividends because you got to return cash to investors for them to stick around. Otherwise, they won't.
So our pal Zach says he's short the ETF we love to hate, the XLE. What do you guys think about the XLE right now? Like,
it's going higher.
I mean, it did show some strength bouncing off that 89 level that we had sort of marked previously. Excuse me, it's still a double toppy. But yeah, what do we think about the XLE? And then we can get into maybe crude and maybe even gold if you're feeling like it, Nick.
Yeah, we should talk about.
All right, let's start with energy. We can parse them down one by one. Here we go.
I think
Nick,
XLE is going to. I think it's going to 200.
Woo! 200.
Yeah. Yep.
The XLE is going to 200.
Yep.
There you go, Zach. Close your short, bro.
I mean, I'm looking at a weekly chart, and I think that it's breaking out of a massive range, like it's or channel that it's been in since basically 2000, and it's basically 2000. I think it's getting ready to yeah, I think a monster move is coming. How it plays out and how fast it happens, like I you know, that's to be seen.
I mean,
that's where I think it's going.
That's, you know, that's a round tripper, right? 93 to 200. That's some big numbers.
Let's see here. I would say on a conservative side, I'd say 169. So let's just say between 170 and 200 is where I think it's going.
God damn, GP, I know you ain't that bullish.
I am longer term. I hear what you're saying, Nick. But I thought we had our 2022 hats on. Isn't this the incremental highs and death set situation?
That's where I'm at.
I'm not saying I don't have my stops in place and I'm going to trim and trail, but I'm just telling you that's where I think it's going.
And I can see that, right? And we'll find out more from the 13Fs that get reported this week, whether they're adding more to energy or they're rotating out of energy into that. So that's what I'll be watching over the next few days. The 13Fs will be reporting what the big fundies are doing, and the big fundies is where the markets go, right? If they're all still buying hand over fist in energy, then energy goes higher ultimately.
I mean, in that same argument, I think TAN solar, I think equally is going to 200 plus.
You guys know I love divergences, and there's just a huge negative divergence here.
It's been 2 years. It's been the whole year, right?
Yeah, for sure. That doesn't mean that the price can't go higher, as we've noted many times in the past. But at some point, the music has to stop, and I don't know when that is. Zach, I wish you all the best.
I'm short with you, Zach.
I wish you both the best.
Yeah. No, you don't buy here. To answer that question, you should already be long. If you should already be long the XLE if you believe in that trade. Buying it here, I think you might as well wait for all-time highs. Wait for it to rip through 100, 102, 101.
Yeah, it's similar to the gold conversation we had back in March, right?
Absolutely.
And we're going to gold right now.
Yeah.
Right. No, let's finish up XLE first. But similar to the gold conversation, I'm like, cool, I hear you, but it chops forever. And so you buy the breakout, you don't buy this nonsense. Otherwise, you're going to be a miserable person. Because it could take a year, it could take 5 years, who knows with gold.
It could be.
Commodities in general. But so like my thoughts on XLE is that I think there's a secular shift. So XLE does go higher longer term, Nick, to your perspective. But I also think momentum is waning here, and the drivers to push higher, like it's not only diverging on the chart that you're showing, Bags, it's also diverging from oil. Oil has made
we pointed that out. Yes.
Oil has made lower highs since June. Right. So
yes.
to me, in the current situation, we are looking at energy being peak earnings, right? Like if oil doesn't go higher, then their earnings can't get much better. They'll keep producing well, so it could just go sideways for a while. It doesn't have to be a death bar. 2022 has been different though. But to me, for energy to have its next leg up, oil needs to have its next leg up, right?
Agreed. I think that's coming too.
Yeah, and if that comes, then energy does break out. But
Agreed.
as of now, since June, for 4.5 months or 5 months now, it has continuously made lower highs.
What do you think of the OIH?
That's probably better than oil or XLE.
Yeah.
In terms of where you want to be, because these guys, what they're doing is essentially building out the supply for oil demand in the next 5 to 10 years, right? So they'll reap the benefits like longer term.
Yeah.
So I like it. It's broken out of a larger downtrend here from 2015. My biggest problem is I don't believe in oil, right? Like that's my constant kind of fight. But I still try to stick to charts, and OIH looks better than XLE. Momentum doesn't seem to be waning here. And they're going to be investing more in like supply side stuff. So that should help their bottom lines over the next 5 to 10 years. But like, why do you think oil is going higher? I'd love to hear why. Outside of macro chart wise, right?
Why do I think oil's going higher?
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the USO chart, I have like a huge kind of a large channel drawn, and it's broken out of that channel. So I think it's ultimately like, I think it's going to head towards that floor, that 230 floor that it was holding for a long while.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the magnet of where it's going. If you, again, looking at this channel, when oil, basically took out the lower end of the channel, it was kind of like that oops, right? Like it was like, okay, like, is oil really going to go negative? Then we rip the other direction. And I just think that we're going to see the continuation to,
I mean, that's an interesting take that I just put on there, right?
Yeah. So, oh yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was looking at my chart. I wasn't looking at yours. Yeah, exactly. So we broke that trend line and
we retested it.
We're just kind of chilling right now. Like, again, I like fully admit I'm a fucking horrendous commodities trader.
Like, because they trade terrible. It has nothing to do with you. They just don't trade on it.
So just looking at this, I think that like how I view this is if I just draw a line from basically 100 down to those lows, I would just flip it the other direction and say that's where we're going.
Understood.
In terms of like trying to measure the move out, or trying to give myself a measured move.
Okay, fair enough. So like, I'll give you the other side.
Yeah.
You had a bearish 10-21 cross on the SMAs on the weekly.
Okay.
Right. So you have, and it's rejected the 21 2 weeks in a row as it was trying to break higher. You have the bear cross down. You have the 21 trending down, and it keeps rejecting it. It has rejected the 10 for 8 weeks now. It's holding the 50, I think.
What chart are we looking at right now?
No, CL oil.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So to me, the lower highs, the bear cross, whenever you see the 10, 9, 8, whatever SMA you use on a weekly cross below the 20, sorry, the 20 cross below the 50.
Yeah.
Right. That to me is waning
momentum. For sure. I know. I would agree. Like, right? Even on my weekly, like I look at the 30 and the 40 and 40 weekly moving average. It's like the 100 and the 200 day. Basically, the 30 has now crossed underneath the 200 or the 40 period, and the 40 period is starting to flatline. So, it's so definitely feels like
you'll need to see those turn up, but
for sure.
The bear crosses are usually a big warning sign that that more trouble is ahead. And then you have the lower highs, you have the waning kind of RSI and the momentum and different conversations here that like I don't understand. I maybe I haven't understood the divergence, but maybe it will continue to diverge. How XLE can go higher if oil can't, and I'm in the camp that oil can't go higher here. And if it does, it does.
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely leg. If I was in a bear, like if I was short oil, I would be like on the CL, I'd be eyeing another retest of that trend line, basically mid 50s.
Yeah, but that's so like the trend line from the COVID lows, it also rejected, right? Like there's a lot, to me, there's a lot of negative confluences here. And yeah, maybe it's 2022 and it proves me completely wrong.
2022, man. 2022.
2022.
Get on this next year.
Let's jump on gold. I mean, you guys know how I've thought about gold. I've got the big Batman over here. But actually the last 2 weeks has been nice performance from the shiny rock. Interested in what both of you guys think here.
Yeah, I bought it in my wife's account. But I bought the breakout. So like I don't remember what price I actually have, but
it's like 158.
Yeah, right around there.
160 maybe.
If on the bullish side, it definitely kind of broke out of that channel. Basically the entire channel of 2022 it basically broke out of. So
yeah, I like gold. If the macro suggests this is going to be like 2008, gold outperformed over the next few years, ultimately. So yeah, I hate trading it because
but you're not in this is going to turn out like 2008 camp.
I'm not.
So you shouldn't like gold.
I like the chart.
Yeah, no, I mean, other than this monthly Batman, this weekly Batman, yeah, I mean, that looks pretty solid to me.
I mean, it's a false breakdown and immediate recovery on the weekly or monthly, sorry, right?
Yep.
And the monthly not only had a false breakdown.
Well, we still have time in the month.
Yeah.
Let's note that, please.
Agreed. But as of now, it's a full bull engulfing.
Full on Rager green hard on right there.
Yep. So like the setup is there. I just stopped trading this because it's like oil. Like I don't know how people trade commodities and live past 40, Nick.
I know.
I have no clue.
Somebody brings up the miners. I haven't looked at the miners in a minute. That actually might be the way to play.
They looked pretty good. I mean, they were flying.
I know, but CNBC was crazy bullish GDX last week, so I stopped looking at it.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see that.
I love that. That's such a contrarian indicator.
I didn't see that. Kramer's on it. We're out.
No, not Kramer. It was the other.
No, I know. I'm being facetious.
Fast Money Cruise.
I'm being.
But they're like Michael Cow and Tim Seymour, and they're all like GDX. I'm like, okay, gonna take this off my watch list.
Actually, Barrett Gold looks okay. I mean,
FNV was by far the best looking one.
FNV, I should trust Nick to know. Franco, Nevada. Going for the rare quadruple top, maybe.
It looks like accumulation on the weekly, right? Like it looks like they're building.
I don't like them. I mean, it's like energy to me. I'm never going to like it. But I pass winning opportunities all the time. It's like the bus schedule, right? Another one will be along in 5 more minutes.
Over 31, and we probably have a better confirmation of GDX, is my opinion. And this is the one I haven't charted GDX in a really long time, and I just pulled it up and I have lines drawn, and that's been there for like 5 years now.
All right, guys, this is our roundup. We've been going on for an hour now. We've been rambling. There wasn't as much shit talking as I expected. I guess my Imperial March kind of deaded that for GP, but
no, man, I tried to play my song. You just didn't hear it. I already had it on play, and I was sitting here happy listening to my song, and no one heard
nobody could hear it.
It's literally the worst.
You guys know what I like to do. One thing you're watching this week, what's going to be a difference maker, a risk taker, whatever you want to say. Like what's the one thing that you're keeping your eye on, Nick?
Probably GFS.
Global Foundries. Randy's not here, and he's been on Global Foundries from day one.
Yeah, it's a good looking weekly chart. I like it.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Oh, it's a monster in the making, right, Nick?
Yeah.
This is one you buy when it goes low, and then you just wait for it to actually move higher over the next 5
if semi strength continues, this should obviously continue.
Their slide deck bags from last earnings was just one of the most it
was great.
It was just fantastic, and I'm like, these guys are super confident. They're like, other people have problems, we don't.
Yeah. But my point is with NVIDIA this week, right? Like when one of the major components of the SMH takes a hit, the whole cohort takes a hit. And I'm not saying that an NVIDIA, let's just randomly say 15% down takes Global Foundries 15% down, but Global Foundries would be lower if something like that were to happen to NVIDIA. And I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying
NVIDIA is going to 200 by December.
Trade in sympathy with each other.
NVIDIA is going to 200 plus by December, so I'm not worried about that.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah,
GP, what are you watching? What are you looking for?
I like to follow that up though, also with Oxy.
We already talked about your oils. Go away.
All right.
Dude, how does Oxy not look like a big ass Head and Shoulders to you?
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I also see an ascending triangle with like a nice three week tight at the top there, basically 4 weeks tight actually.
You don't want to call that a bear flag?
I'm not gonna call it a bear flag. I'm gonna call it a bull.
I see negative divergence on multiple time frames.
I'm joking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's your pick? What was your?
So I stand by what I have been saying for most of the year.
Netflix.
Dude, that is probably the most technical and well-behaved move I've seen in Netflix in a really long time. It bolted off the earnings. It tested the pivot low from COVID. Expected that it's going to have some resistance there. I did not expect it to get back to 252. It hit 252 like literally almost to the penny and then reversed higher. So this fills the gap, the market goes higher, right? This is what I've been waiting for, is the gap fill, which has been quite annoying. But I'm watching Netflix here because that's going to be the strength of what they've now had the ad tier for a week. So it would be awesome to see like an update if that's been a bullish thing or not. So we'll be watching Netflix as I normally do. And dude, you can't ignore the strength in Apple. That's the other part of that conversation. That is insane strength and refuses to break down. Maybe it breaks down this week because it's 2022.
What part of one thing you are watching don't you two get?
Hey, it was two. We both picked two.
So I got picked two now. So me, easy one, NVIDIA, right? Like NVIDIA is going to tell me what's going on in, the designers of chips, which means a lot to me. But the second thing I'm going to be watching is Palo Alto. I think it's very important for cybersecurity, software, tech in general, to see what Palo Alto does. Had a huge week. I've still got a big old declining RSI there. We'll see. Palo Alto's
had a monster week last week.
One of if not the number one, the number two name in the cybersecurity space. So
do you watch CYBR at all?
I do, but not as much. Palo Alto is sort of my canary in the coal mine. That's what I look at as leadership in the sector and CrowdStrike. So we'll see. We'll see what Palo Alto does, and we'll see what NVIDIA does in earnings. And
one more thing.
Retail, Target. We'll see how Target does too.
One more thing, Bags. One more thing, Bags. If you can pull up the ASML chart.
ASML.
Yep.
I know Monkey Banana loves this one.
This is a semi, from what I understand, right?
Yep.
Look at that volume. Look at that breakout. Look at that fall.
It's insane.
And so my thought process is NVIDIA's earnings probably are going to be impacted, obviously, but I don't think they'll be as bad as what people are expecting.
No, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying that I'm expecting them to be bad. I don't know what they're going to be. I'm very hopeful that they're going to be very positive. But
yes,
I think, again, one of the top 3 names in the SMH, right? When something bad happens to one of those big dogs, it knocks the rest of the cohort down. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
I do like how NVIDIA quickly pivoted to a China-friendly chip, right? That was pretty cool of them. So their management is one of the best. So it's definitely going to be an impact to SMH. But this ASML,
yeah, it's big. It's a big move. I mean, from $460 to $110 it put on in a week.
Yeah, and from earnings nearly $200, right? Like, it's just monster. And that volume, look at that volume.
Yeah. That's sexy. That's very positive for the NVIDIAs, the global foundries, the AMDs, everything but the stock who makes chips for vibrators. I won't name their name.
But that's the thing is, Bags, like the more popular ones like AMD and NVIDIA have lagged. But if you look at the ones that are not as popular, like ASML and LRCX and LSCC and GFS, and they're all saying otherwise, you know what I mean? Right? Like, so
I mean,
it just seems like the ones that are popular,
right? Broadcom is one of those more popular names, but they're not in the same space as the AMDs and the NVIDIA. So no, I hear you. I feel you. We will see how it goes. I think, again, NVIDIA's can often be a bellwether of what's going on, and we'll see.
Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Hey, I've missed you folks. It's been good to chop it up with you. I'm not as bearish as I sound. It's like I'm from Missouri. You got to show me, Market. You got to show me. I'm tired of getting cucked around here. But Nick, GP, love you guys. Appreciate you joining. Thanks for everybody for stopping in. We had a pretty good little crew watching us tonight. So if this is your first time checking us out, new subscriber, Mr. Bear, again, thank you for joining. We're usually not this bearish. Homebody, Zach, hey, Randy, we miss you. We hope you're okay. We talked about global foundries. I know you'll be watching this later, but thanks, guys. Peace, and we are